see your name?
You all see my new gavel?
That is
Oh,
a
that's
Look at
cool.
it.
That's
Has your name?
great.
Has your
Big
name on it?
rosewood
Did the other one
gavel
get
and
hosed or
cane.
something?
Check this
It
out.
just disappeared?
Tiny.
Let's use it. Let's go.
I haven't had a gavel.
Let's
Really,
use it.
it's only
Someone stole- What happened to the
6:32.
old gavel?
City Villa Park wrapped around the base.
Yeah.
So I gotta take it back in.
What happened to the old gavel?
Someone stole.
Some kid has it.
MIA.
Well, got a different sound. Okay, I call the meeting of the Villa Park City Council to order. What are we doing here? We take roll, I guess? Jared?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilman Mills.
Here.
Councilman Pauly.
Here,
Councilman Reese.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Fasenelli.
Present.
Mayor Barnett.
Present. And for the pledge, why don't we try, can you make Kelly do it since she's here? No, she isn't. Okay. How about our fire representative here? How about her?
Yes. Good choice.
Good evening. Mike Schrader, Orange County Fire. Right hand over your heart, Pledge of Allegiance. Begin. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Made it through that. Okay. All right. Well, we got the Orange County Fire update, so Schrader, you get to take the floor.
Well, good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Council, City staff, members of the community. My name is Mike Schrader. I'm a brand new battalion chief. Been a battalion chief for all of 3 months, and excited about working with you guys here in the city of Villa Park. Wanted to bring a couple things up that I think will be of interest to the council. First, want to share that our fire chief, Keith Richter, announced his retirement. I'm certain you all know of this, just to make it official. That'll be effective August 29th. And there's an ad hoc committee that's been formed to handle the recruitment process. So obviously it'll be a nationwide recruitment for a high caliber candidate. Number two, or next, I'd like to share just about our emergency services call history data for the city for the past month. We had, in the city, we had 21 calls for services. All of those were emergency medical services related or service calls. No fires were reported. I spoke with Chief Young pursuant to the last city council meeting. He indicated that the council wanted to be apprised of anything other than emergency medical services, calls, and there were none to report, so that's good. On that note, he did also note that there was a vehicle fire or suspect vehicle arson in the city last reporting period in May, and there's an ongoing investigation. No new information there. And lastly, I'd like to just address a couple issues for the upcoming 4th of July. First is fireworks stands. We have 3 approved fireworks stands for the city of Villa Park, I'm sure you know. We have a plan to get those operational, hopefully on Friday, the 27th, if everything goes well, if the deliveries come in place. But we do have a contingency in place that should the deliveries be delayed or something happen, we'll have them in service before 10 a.m. on the 28th, so they'll be ready to go. And last but not least, wanted to talk about Safe and Sane fireworks on that note. The State Fire Marshal adheres or affixes a symbol to every firework that's safe and sane. So for the members of the community or for those in the general public, if you have this affixed to the firework or the merchandise, the exterior packaging, then it's safe and sane. Anything that does not have that is not lawful in the city permit or in the city. So just a note there. On that note, we just want to encourage folks to have an adult, a responsible adult that's available to assist. We always encourage folks to have a hose line, we call it a green line or a garden hose, fire extinguisher, bucket of water, and then obviously use great caution when lighting them off in a safe and sane manner, even near vegetation, homes, combustibles, things like that. So that's my report. I'm open for any questions that you might have.
Thank you and welcome.
Hearing none, thank you, Chief, appreciate it. And I will tell everyone that after fireworks, after the 4th last year, I attended a Fire Authority Board meeting, and the comment was passed on that the local staff, firemen over here for Station 23, had commented, wow, if they do a 4th, that's the way to do it. Because Brad and I went out after about 10:30 that night and drove around. We couldn't even find a wrapper every street was swept and washed. I mean, it was incredible. We even needed a street sweeper.
Yeah.
So,
I worked in our arson section last 4th of July, and I went to quite a few cities that night, as you can imagine. And I never came here, so that was a good sign.
That's a good thing, yep.
Thank you.
Thanks.
okay. Well, I think we've got, I think you're up next.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. For last,
Mr. for chief, I got the chief for lieutenant.
it's all good, whatever works. For the month of May, we had a total of 7 Part 1 crimes. Again, our numbers continue to traject down from last year's numbers. Every month we've been lower than we were in the comparable month of 2013. Hopefully it stays that way. For the breakdown, we had 3 petty thefts. One of them, same as last month, we had a shoplifter from Ralph's take some groceries out. We had another that was a unlocked vehicle. Actually, that was listed as a theft because of the dollar amount wasn't, they couldn't determine it was petty theft or theft, so they just left it as a theft. And then another petty theft, another unlocked vehicle. We had a graffiti where someone graffitied a smile face on a garage door. That's your Villa Park graffiti. And then we had 2 residential burglaries. Unfortunately, we had one where it was a detached bungalow. Someone entered a rear window and took a television and receiver, a stereo. The other one, the house is under construction. The residents are not there currently. Their alarm is disabled, and they had, it's just filled with construction people. So I talked to the investigator on this the other day. The homeowners are being very active in assisting with the investigation, contacting different pawn shops and looking online at Craigslist and things for watches and things of that nature. According to the investigator, they're trying to set up cold calls and rather than go into what that is, but they think they know who did it. So, and then the other one was similar to I think I reported on last month that a woman was leaving Ralph's over here, and someone tried to take the purse off her shoulder. Described as kind of a high schooler, just above high school age kid. Purse fell on the ground, and the kid fled. And Deputy Muir was here within 45 seconds, and he was around the corner and gone. So 45 seconds from the time the call came. They're still trying to, that night they tried to pull tapes from Ralph's, and the person working didn't know how to retrieve the tapes. So, and then it depends how far out the door it was. So, and that's all I have for the crime reports. This weekend attended the marathon. I think it was pretty well attended. Looks like there was a lot of runners. I don't know how many total they had. We had 40 explorers out here and 6 reserves, and everyone was real happy that the thing counted. And I got a nice note from the organizer today about what a nice event it was. May you have anything for me?
Bungalow theft was my niece, so if the perpetrators are watching, we now have a camera system.
Nice.
Did we have our mileage and response time reports this month?
I received the email from our administrative
Yeah.
deputy. I just have yet to put it into our Villa Park format.
I'm still thinking because of the layout here, we should have the most incredible response times in the state, I think.
Well, sometimes you do. and not to dwell on response times, but when you look at state standards, there are no standards. I think we described that before. There isn't a category. It's like you figure out response times however you want. Some people do it from the time the deputy gets a call, their officer gets a call, and the time he gets there. To us, that's just drive time. Total response time is the time the person picks up the phone. So we do chart them a little different than some other
I looked
agencies
at a number of those. It's interesting how long it appears to take sometimes for the dispatcher just to get the call out.
Right. And there's a number of reasons for that. Sometimes you'll get a call on a cell phone. Well, it's a cell phone tower, goes to CHP sometimes. Then they have to transfer it to us. Sometimes there's a language barrier. Sometimes people don't know where they are. So you have to triangulate. There's all kinds of different reasons for that. But yeah, and I don't envy the dispatchers. That's a tough job up there.
I have a compliment to give you from a resident who lives on Francisco, who, it was the second time they've lived here, they're original residents, second time that they've used the vacation check. And they came home early, and didn't call to let you know that they came home early.
Found Deputy Rollins at their house.
As the gentleman was in his easy chair watching TV, a flashlight came through the window. And the sheriff asked for his ID and questioned him to make sure who he was, and he was very thankful and appreciative
They're
of
very
what you
important
did,
to
because
let
they
people
don't know
know.
what you do when they're gone, and he experienced it directly. So.
Luckily, there weren't gunplay or anything like that.
No, he was sitting in his chair, so we're okay, but I wanted to
Yeah,
forward
but Jeff
that
sent
to you.
out, the Deputy Rollins sent out an email to everyone in the city that, hey, the homeowner's home now, so,
Yes.
yeah, I got that one too.
Lieutenant, I have,
Yes.
I have a couple of things. Last month, Supervisor Todd Spitzer was here, and we had a protracted conversation about many issues, but animal control was among them. And we had discussed somewhat that we don't necessarily get good response from animal control, and he had indicated to us that when that occurs, that we should call the sheriff, that the sheriff would handle that situation. Very interestingly, on the Saturday of Father's Day weekend, there was an incident in the city that I was made aware of, and I think we're all fairly aware of it, where a dog had bashed through the fence, the neighbor's fence, and latched on to a visiting dog's head and was trying to pull it through the fence. And, you know, the men were out there kicking this dog in the head, and it's apparently a sort of breed that doesn't respond at all to that sort of thing. So she called the sheriff, and the sheriff wanted to know if it was attacking a person. No, it's not. Well, we don't handle that. Call animal control. Well, you call animal control on Saturday, you know, at lunchtime, and they're nowhere to be found. So I am wondering, number one, what should they do? Number two, was Supervisor Spitzer's advice to us perhaps not exactly correct?
No, and I did get that email forwarded from Jarrett and asked me to look into it. Dispatch, actually today I was going back and forth with dispatch. All they have is the 14th. So what leads them on the date that's on the email leads them to look at every single phone call that comes in. They don't know what the time was. They asked me, what time was the phone call made? I don't have that. I said, the only thing I have is what you forwarded to Jarrett with the pictures of the dog, very business. I mean, so I'm asking for clarification on that incident. And yeah, they should be calling dispatch. And I think it's up to me to tell dispatch, or us as a sheriff's department to tell dispatch, animal control isn't working on the weekends. If it's something like that, I think we should respond to it. Not that we're going to deal with that dog, because we're not trained to do that.
Right.
But we do need to go out there and at least, as a county agency, we can write a follow-up report or assist outside agency for animal control and let them know what we respond to on the weekend. So, yeah, I think Supervisor Spitzer was right. I'm just not sure, without having the details, how this one went.
Right,
So
I'm sure.
they're looking for a 24-hour span of phone calls to see which one that one.
And I have no idea what time that happened, but I appreciate that. I'm sure Supervisor Spitzer appreciates that you think he's right. And I think that the amount of money that we're now paying animal control, they should be working on the weekends. But at the very least, yeah, the sheriff should be, you know, at least able to take a report.
Yeah.
My second question has to do with the upcoming 4th of July weekend. We're already having, you know, fireworks going off. They started a couple weeks ago. My experience with the Safe and Sane fireworks experiment in the city of Villa Park is not exactly the same as what Mayor Barnett describes. One of the concerns I had last year was that our ordinance expressly prohibits the use of those fireworks in town center and on the school properties. Town center, I went out during the event. There was nothing going on here. But the high school, we had 4, maybe to 6 groups of people. I didn't get out of the car to see what their ages are, but I can guess. Having a party in different locations there. And, you know, there was no response from our sheriff's department. So I'm wondering, how are we going to be prepared to enforce our ordinance to ensure that it is indeed a safe and sane 4th of July?
Well, I know what you're talking about with the schools, and there was a response, because I was out here, and there were several calls to the high school, and we had, as you recall, 4 deputies out here, and I know we had someone go to the high school. I don't know if it was right when the phone call came in. They may have been handling something else and went there after. I don't know, but I was in the town center for some of that, and that's probably why nothing was going on. We had 2 cars and me talking here in the town center while they closed up one of the fireworks booths and make sure it was safe to transport their items and things. So, but yeah, we'll respond to every single call. It's a matter of, I think there was, I don't remember the numbers now, but Jared and I looked it up after the 4th, And then for a 4-hour span, there was like 600 calls for service or something. So yeah, dispatch is getting them out as fast as they can, but it may not be right when someone calls. But I'll guarantee we went to the high school.
Okay, and I drove by a couple of times and they hadn't, but I do know that there were a lot of calls because the first couple of times that I personally called, the phone was busy. Is manpower beefed up on a night like that?
Well, yes and no. Manpower is as good as it can be. At the time of last year, we were short call takers and short dispatchers. We had the max up there. Now we're better off than we were. So, you know, I can't say this year's going to be better. It's the volume of calls, and call takers take them from throughout the county.
Right.
Then they send them to the specific dispatchers. So in Villa Park, it's Yellow 1, which covers unincorporated Yorba Linda and Villa Park, and Stanton. So it depends on how many of those calls are coming in is when that fireworks call goes out. But yeah, it could be a minute, it could be 5 minutes. I can't say.
Lieutenant, if I could just clarify, Villa Park did not receive 600 calls.
No, I'm
If I
not-
remember
not
correctly,
Villa Park.
if I remember correctly, we had approximately 21, 22 calls, and some of those were from multiple
I mean,
people.
countywide.
Yes.
But countywide, I just want to clarify that because you
Yeah,
didn't
the
say it,
call
so
takers
people who are
take them
listening.
from everywhere.
We only got about 22 calls,
Yeah.
and we
Yeah.
did have several from multiple peoples
the
because
same
we do
people.
have the recording, and we know who called. So I just
Right.
want to make sure that that's a clarification.
I've got two questions. One, what are we doing for security this year? Are we doing the 4 people again?
We're doing extra patrols and we're doubling up our cars. The 2 reserves I used last year are not available this year. We put out a call and we're still trying to get another. The problem is level 1 reserves, which are reserves that can go out by themselves on patrol. There's only a handful, maybe 6 of those in the county. The 2 that I got last year were guys that used to be my canine handlers, and I called them way early. This year I called them and they're already tied up in Lake Forest. So we're getting extra cars, but I think most likely we're going to double up on our cars.
So how many guys are we gonna have?
And we have people staying over, like our day shift guys staying over 4 hours, someone coming in early.
So how many bodies will we have on the 4th evening?
Right now, I don't know today because we're still trying to fill spots because the
Yes.
4th is our busiest day of the year between all the different things we have going on.
Range of
I'd
people?
probably say 3 for sure, in the peak hours.
Okay.
I'll try and get 4, but
Maybe 3 or 4? Okay.
Yeah.
And then my last question was that dog event. You know, I've looked over the calls pretty well. We have so few calls. I mean, they're almost non-existent. Who sets the policy to determine what you go out on? Can we set the policy and say, look, if somebody calls with a fighting dog thing, you know, unless we got something else, or we want to have somebody go out. You guys can shoot them, for quite frankly. It's a big enough problem. That one was a little scary, apparently. I mean, can we set a policy? We don't get that many of those either. We get a couple of calls a day. I mean, it's not really asking too much if somebody's concerned enough about a dog scenario, they call the police to have somebody go out. How would that be done? Can we do that, or does that have to go to the sheriff's, or
as far
what?
as priority, no, the city can't set the policy because then we'd be looking at Yorba Linda wants their policy, Stanton wants to become first. That's the 3 entities that you compete with basically here. And unfortunately, those 2 cities are much busier than Villa Park is.
Right.
So when the calls go up there, they go to the call takers, so they'll give it to one dispatcher, and that dispatcher may have 10 things on their list to get dispatched, and depend on what those things are. So I can't, I can encourage dispatch, but they know how the contract of Villa Park and how things work. It's like, if something comes over here, they know it's important. But they can't take one over another.
Well, I guess that's not really my question. I could understand in prioritizing. I know how that works. My question is, it sounds like they have a policy that they just don't come for that. So my question was going to be, how do we change that where they would come? You know, I mean, I understand if it's a priority problem and somebody's getting murdered over here, they're not coming. But how do we set it so that it's not an absolute, we don't appear on
No,
those?
see, that's not the case, and that's why I want to look into the dog one, because that surprised me. We respond to every call for service.
Oh, okay.
Every call for service. That's what makes us unique over some city PDs. We don't do over the phone reports and things like that, or come to the station and we'll take a report there. We respond to everything. So it really surprised me that we didn't come out to that.
Okay, so I misunderstood that.
Well, and that might just be an error up at dispatch that I need to correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll respond to every single call for service.
All right, that was my only concern. Anybody else got anything? Okay.
All right, thank you.
Well, thanks, Lieutenant. And now we have a little treat. We have Kelly Jordan is going to give us a real Community Services Foundation report. We're not going to have to look around and see who can
Guess what
cover.
we're doing? I'm Kelly Jordan. I reside at 9851 Center Drive, Villa Park. I'm the Director of Membership for the Community Services Foundation. And I'm just here to give an update of what we've been doing and what we're going to be doing this year. Just want to say the 2014 picnic was very successful. We had over 300 adults in attendance, which was even greater than past years. We'd like to thank Ed Carter for doing a fabulous job planning the picnic. Everyone really enjoyed dunking the mayor and the council members. And some great raffle prizes were donated by the town center, and some very lucky people won those. And there are pictures on the foundation website to help capture the feel of the Villa Park's Great American Picnic. The foundation received $3,000 from Wells Fargo, which was a first for a donation from them for the picnic. And we want to thank Rich Freshy for underwriting the picnic tickets, the printing of the picnic tickets. The foundation this year hosted its first member thank you event, and we hope to do so annually. This year we had about 65 in attendance, but we had a little glitch on the invitation, so hopefully next year that will be better. Those who attended were very appreciative and look forward to future participation. And we really think we'll have greater attendance next year now that more residents are aware of this event that we're planning on doing. This year, this quarter, our movie night was a great success. We had over 200 children accompanied by their families. They got to play with hula hoops and ice cube beach balls. They had ice blue glow necklaces, and then they got to watch the hit Disney movie Frozen. Prior to that, the local youth band called 5 Minutes Late entertained, and then the movie started at dusk. It was a very, very fun night. I don't know if any of you attended it, but I didn't get to, but it was very fun. Next family movie night will be on Friday, August 22nd, and we don't have all the details, but they'll be posted on the city posters and emails as the day gets closer. This year, under the direction of new resident Gretchen Ferris, the foundation is assisting in promoting the first 4th of July Stars on Parade. It's for the children of Villa Park, thanks to the Thomas Group for their $500 donation. This parade is free, and the route and details can be found on the foundation website. We're hoping to have this annually, so if anybody, get your kids out there, participate, get their bikes decorated, scooters decorated. It should be a really fun event.
What's the age range on that?
It's any kids. It's just any kids that want to participate, and we've got adults out there.
He wants to clip
You
a
can
card
decorate your
onto his bike.
bicycle and put
Remember
the
when you
cars
used to
on
do
it
that?
if you
You
like.
clip the card onto the bike tires, go.
Just
Yeah,
no motor
he just
vehicles.
wants to do that.
No motorized vehicles. We're trying to keep
Is
it
it
safe.
going slow enough you could push him in something? I got a
You want
great
to decorate your wheelchair? If you have a wheelchair, you can do that too.
Touche. That was good.
All right, so this year, the concert in Villa Park is on Friday, August 18th, in the Villa Park Outdoor Amphitheater, beginning at 7, and we will feature the tribute group Harmony. It's going to be a fun night to celebrate and dance to the 60s and 70s music of Three Dog Night. Thanks to the financial support from the foundation members, plus Villa Park Women's League and Villa Park Rotary Club, this is another free event for the community. Plan on warm-up music from local musicians, fun food, and maybe even a bullfrog named Jeremiah hopping around and bringing joy to the world, and Villa Park too. This year, we gave away a few grants that benefit bringing music to the schools. The opportunity for musical instruction in our OUSD schools at the elementary level relies solely on support outside the school system. So this year, the foundation responded to a grant request from Villa Park Elementary School for funding of recorder instruments to assist with the instruction of reading music in the 5th grade. Foundation gave a $700 grant for that, and Andy Mills, the foundation grant chair, presented a big check to the 5th grader, Kate. That was kind of fun. Upon the recommendation of the Foundation Grant Committee, a grant also of $1,000 was awarded to the Instrumental and Orchestral Music Department of Cerro Villa Middle School to be used by Director Diane Hanna to repair musical instruments, specifically tubas, in preparation for the next class of musicians. The CB Instrumental Music Program is the largest music program in OUSD with over 95 students last year, and we hope to get more. And lastly, the foundation is planning a retreat for the foundation board members to review our major efforts and directions to enhance Villa Park citizens' quality of life. We will be guided by Ms. Catherine Spears, Ms. Spears brings nearly 20 years of national, regional, and local professional experience in the nonprofit sector as an executive director, campaign counsel, trainer, and consultant in nonprofit funding and organizational development. The foundation board members will have an afternoon and evening retreat. The purpose will be to revisit our mission to establish a vision for the next 3 to 5 years and develop this coming year's objectives. This retreat will give us a roadmap to follow so that our decisions will be based on our vision, mission, and goals. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Kelly, for
Any
a
questions?
comprehensive and informative report. We haven't had that for a while.
Yeah.
Can you
Yes.
verify the date? You said August 18th?
Seventh.
For August when?
For the concert?
For the concert in the
concert,
park is the
August
18th.
8th.
And the 18th is a Monday, unless I'm looking at the wrong. date.
August 8th is the concert.
Thank you.
Oh, I got
one.
it. I heard
Did I say the
18th
18th?
also.
You wrote, and you wrote down the 18th
I had
also, so
18th
that's
too,
why. It's
yeah.
okay.
That's
We
what I
all
heard.
had 18th.
I may have said 18th,
Perfect.
but it was
Thank you,
really
Jen.
the 8th.
Okay.
When's the retreat?
The retreat's going to be late September, early October. We don't have a date scheduled yet. We're actually in the very beginning planning stages of this retreat, so I don't have a whole lot more detail on that.
Anybody, any questions?
No, thank you,
Nope,
Kelly.
You're free.
Thank you for your
Thanks,
time.
Kelly. Okay, I guess it's time for oral communications. You know what, I'm not gonna read this. I'm just gonna say that anybody in the audience that would like to come up and address the council on any matters is welcome to do it. All you have to do is approach the podium, give us your name and address, and you've got 5 minutes to tell us what you want to tell us. Be my guest.
Good evening. I'm Sergio Stone from 11 States Drive. Mr. Mayor, Councilman, and Hildebrand, and staff. I would like to address my concerns about the town center. I know it's not very attractive, and it is not very inviting. And I also know that there have been improvements made in the last few years. It looks better than when I first moved in. But what prompted me to come and address you was the building of a structure that I would like to characterize as a cage in front of a restaurant that is so unseemly and lacking beauty and seems unnecessary, ugly. It's really dreadful. There was no way of giving privacy to the customers with a little shrubbery or maybe some flowers. It's just a cage that I have never seen anybody inside of it because I believe that most people will not like to be seen inside of it. But maybe somebody, sometime, and at times that I don't come, do patronize the cage. But this brings to my mind the idea that we may have an opportunity to improve these aspects of our town center. I believe that the City Hall is an example of what it can be done to beautify the area. I believe that Rockwell Cafe is doing an excellent job. All places like the Villa Park Cafe are pleasant to sit and chat. But the rest, I think, can be improved. We may have a good opportunity if the bank is not built, and maybe with a little of enthusiasm and advertising and encouragement, we could bring more places where we can sit and chat and have a coffee. We have a beautiful fountain just next door. And I wonder how nice it would be if we had big trees, benches, maybe a coffee, outside, talking with our old friends. Those of us that want to do it away from home and wives and inside of the city. So I wonder if the city has an architectural review board so that when somebody proposes to build a structure that is going to be for all of us to see, there is a way of telling that person that improvements can be done. So that will be my concern, whether there is this board, and I would like to encourage the council to continue to improve our town center and consider my suggestion of having a special board to look at new structures. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. That's an issue the council has addressed many times and has a committee out there, and you're certainly free to talk to staff and give them your ideas. Anyone else like to make any comments? It appearing not, we'll move on to the regular agenda. And item 1 is a resolution relating to a public nuisance. So, Jared, has somebody got a report on that?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you recall, this item was continued from the May 27th meeting to allow the property owner another month to resolve the matters of the inoperable vehicles in the driveway. Staff heard from the property owner on May 29th, in which they requested all the correspondence that was sent to the property. After that, staff had not heard from the property owner. It's our understanding that you, Mr. Mayor, have met with the property owner, have verified that the vehicles in the driveway are all in working condition and have valid registration. And based on the report from you, staff is recommending that the City Council determine the matter resolved and forgive the outstanding fines.
Just for the record, I guess, yes, I did stop by there because I got so frustrated with it that I stopped by and Mr. Bevins came out and started all the vehicles, and I checked all the license plates on the vehicles were in there, and they all had current tags and they were all operable. So since I made the inspection, I maybe won't make the motion, but it's true.
I'll be very, well, he can't make the, he said he doesn't want to make the
I
motion.
did.
But I'm actually, first of all, when I read that you had done this and heard that you had done this, I wanted to thank you as mayor for your leadership to take that action to put this to bed. I'll be happy to make the motion that we consider this matter resolved and forgive all the fines that have been incurred to date.
Okay, Greg.
Second.
All right, Jared.
Mr. Mayor, can we please, since this is a continued public hearing item, we'll need to.
Oh, I'm sorry. Public comment? Okay, I apologize. Do we have anyone in the public here that would like to be heard on this issue?
You're winning, Charles.
Yeah, you're gonna win. You're gonna win this one. But you're welcome to speak.
I would like to, there were some things in the newspaper that were inaccurate, and I'd like to correct them, because to me, I found it to be libelous, not what. There was communication evidently that was referred to back to 2005 or 2006. And the matter, as I said earlier, was addressed. And see, I had massive injuries to my back and my neck, which I'm not at liberty to discuss, but my abdominal cavity as well as my pectoralis major. I had friends come over so they could keep the Christmas spirit and decorate the house. So there was a couple of extra cars that were there at the time. When I received the letter, I did call the Sheriff's Department, as it says, as every letter says. And I speak to the Sheriff's Department, and the Sheriff's Department says we do not do that. And then even the last council meeting, I called 3 times, and they got upset with me, and they were going to send a police officer over. So someone has to correct the verbiage in the letters or something to communicate better. But anyway, that time, the watch commander spoke with him, and he did send a policeman over to see the house. And he said, I find no issue with that, and that's what he was going to tell the person prior to you. Now, to see it rehashed again, I found that troubling, and I do have all my notes from whom I spoke with and whatnot like that. So to bring that up again is in my opinion, not an issue. Next thing was there was a comment about leaves. We had a massive amount of Santa Ana winds, which I know the vestibule of the house faces in that direction, and I have to clean them up like every other day. And in fact, if you may all recall, we have Santa Ana winds that went even into May of this year, which is very unusual and very severe. And that's pretty much what I'd like to say. Now, this reporter interviews one person whom I have never met, but I've always waved to. And she had a comment, but the news reporter didn't speak to the other neighbors. I do know quite a few did contact the city and leave their opinion, and they had called me and said what they had said. I know some had called and whatnot like that. I appreciate you, Mr. Mayor, coming out to the residents. That was incorrect. I did communicate with the city, and I did ask the gentleman to forward me an example of what someone had done to accommodate said request. And they gave me a letter that they sent somebody else, which the verbiage is much nicer than the verbiage I received in communications from the city. All I'd like to say, that's pretty much all I'd like to say. I do appreciate your time, Mr. Mayor, coming out to the residents. And I'd like to stipulate, as I have always stipulated from day one, my vehicles have always been operational. And they have, are you listening to me, Mr. City Manager?
I am listening.
Okay, very good, because I hope this will never happen again. They've always been operational, they're always insured, and some of them are the most desirable cars in the world. And you can smirk and make your little comments. I find you very disrespectful, and you should really go back and learn how to be a gentleman. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Bevins. And with all due respect for the city manager, he's got a tough spot. He has to respond to what he gets, and he has to deal with it. And you know, my attempt was to try and shortcut it and get it off the table. Nobody wanted it. I assure you the city manager was 100% behind that, and he didn't want anything to do with it either. But he got stuck. He's the guy in the crosshairs. So anyway, thank you.
I thank you for coming out. I appreciate it.
You're going to close the public hearing.
I
Okay.
would like to say
Oh,
something.
she wants to talk.
Someone else?
My son, he's my child. I do not like his name being published in today's newspaper about being a nuisance. I do not like the city also putting in, let us know the gossip about your neighbor. You don't like your neighbor? Let us put it in the, let us know how you don't like your neighbor. You don't like your neighbor because he has a chicken or a horse or something. You just don't like your neighbor, so you're gonna complain, you're gonna gossip? Is that what the city, do something nice. Be pleasant. Have nice things to say about the city. Not tell me a bad thing about your neighbor. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms.
And
Bevins.
my poor child, I have been suffering just as much as he has because of this nonsense you put us through.
It wasn't the city's doings, but if you'll let us proceed, we'll take care of it and we'll end this. So
I'm upset.
I think we can, if there's no one, does anyone else like to speak on this issue? No? Okay, we'll probably take the vote then, Jared.
I have a comment.
Oh, wait a minute.
Close the public hearing so that we can go back to, bring it back to council.
All right, we'll close the public hearing, and I believe Fasenelli has something here.
I have a comment that I appreciate the fact that you went so out of your way to go to Mr. Bevan's house, but I want us all to remember that we have protocol here. And the reason for the protocol is to make sure that we treat our residents equally. And just keep that in the back of our mind, that I certainly 100% trust your word, but we have a city manager who's been entrusted to follow our code that we tell him to follow. And when this issue comes up again, I just want to make sure that we don't have any liability towards the city, that we have not followed protocol equally when it comes to code enforcement. So having that put on the record, that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
My motion on the table stands.
Back to the vote, Jared.
Motion is to, let me go back to this. Consider the matter resolved and forgive the outstanding fines. Councilman Pauly.
Yes.
Councilman Mills.
Yes.
Councilman Reese.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Fasenelli.
Yes.
Mayor Barnett.
Yes. That ends that, Mr. Bevins. Okay, next item is, item 2 is the consideration of the budget. So we got a report on that?
Excuse me, battling a cold. Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the consideration of the 2014-15 operating budget, 7-year capital improvement program. There are various resolutions attached to this which set the appropriations limit and adopt a new personnel and salary benefits resolution. The City Council the City Council Budget and Finance Committee has had several meetings up until this point. And at the City Council Budget Study Session on the 9th, there were only 2 changes to be made in the budget document. That was to take out a word, aggressive, in the city's code enforcement program, as well as restructure the camera surveillance system to security infrastructure and divvy up that money in a designated reserve account and then leave 50 grand in the capital expenditure. Those changes have been implemented. And with regards to the personnel and salary resolution, you'll see I kind of structured it, or I'm proposing some changes this year. I have a PowerPoint which I'd like to go through, in which it will show you those changes because it's rather difficult to see. Our management analyst, code enforcement officer position has been a revolving door in the last 2 to 3, 4, for 2 to 3 years. Somebody will turn around and go to another city with, better benefits and higher wages. While we don't want to increase the cost of the salary range and our base rate pay, I think I've come up with some creative ideas to make the position a little more attractive. That's what I'd like to go through right now. As far as the budget, it calls for an employee position count of 6 full-time equivalent employees, and those are separated with 4 full-time employees. Myself, city manager, I'm Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. The maintenance supervisor, Mike Knowles, he's Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. The management analyst, which is currently vacant. And what I'm going to propose there is that the position be a flex schedule position. So they can choose to work Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, or the 980, which is where they make 80 hours in 9 days rather than 10 days for the work week. I think this would be an added benefit to somebody, and if I ever needed Friday off, we'd coordinate it, so we would definitely have coverage. Then the maintenance worker, which is Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. We also have 4 part-time employees at the city. The finance director, she's approximately 30 hours a week. Building inspector is 24. The executive assistant is 20, and a management intern is 20 hours per week. As for the budgeted annual salaries, they're shown on the screen. And we also budget for an additional $5,000 in maintenance overtime. Now this is to cover for sewer call-outs, the boat parades, the Halloween fest. We split the cost with the foundation and the other agencies. So we have a total budgeted salary of $472,756, which is approximately 17.6% of our operating budget. Our retirement formula here is 2% at 55. For classic members, new members, we do not have any as of yet. It just depends on who we hire for the management analyst. If they currently work for a PERS agency, they would come in at the 2 at 55 rate. If they are new to the profession, it would be 2 at 62, which is set by PEPRA, the Public Employees Pension Reform Act. Our employer contribution rate. So the city's employer rate is 11.5%. We also have a side fund which came about in 2003 or 4 when CalPERS restructured. That's 11%, and it's going to fall off in, did we ever figure it out? In about 6 years. So we'll get rid of the 11% share. So the total employer's rate, which is city's rate, is 22.692%. And CalPERS sets the total employee rate at 7%. So the city's total contribution is 29. For fiscal year 14-15, city employees are picking up an additional share. Now this began back in 10 and 11. So the city employees' share is 6%. Next year will be 7%, and we'll be done with it. And then the city percentage is going to vary next year. It just depends what PERS actuaries come up with. Medical benefits for city employees. So the city pays the full cost of medical insurance for full-time employees, only the 4 of them. If they were hired before 2008, the city will pick up 66% of the cost for dependents. If they are hired after 2008, the city only picks up 33% of the cost of the dependents. There's a cash rebate of $150 a month for an employee and $250 a month for a family. What I'm proposing to do is to increase this cash rebate, which is no cost to the city, and all further slides will describe that. So I just pulled the Kaiser HMO plan. For the city, for one employee, the rate is $602 a month. That's all across the board. Doesn't matter when you were hired. The city will pay that share. Right now, if the employee elects to receive their health insurance elsewhere, maybe they're provided by a spouse or a parent, or they can get better coverage, who knows where, they can cash out for $150 a month. The city will not pay the $602 and we'll pay them $150. I'm proposing to bump that up to $400. Either way, we'll still save $202 a month on the deal. For an employee plus one dependent, the rate is $1205 a month. You'll see the pre-2008 and post-2008 calculations. So we're up, if hired after 2008, which would be right now, we'd be paying $801 a month as a city. I'm proposing to cash out at $700, which just makes it more attractive of an option. And this doesn't raise the base rate pay of anybody, which is great for our PERS calculations in Pepper. Employee plus 2%, you'll see where we'd pay $912 of that, and the cash out is still $700. So vacation, employees accrue vacation based on years of service. Currently, there's a max of 162 hours. That's after 15 years of service. After 10 years, we can accrue up to 320 hours. I'm not proposing to change that. It's more for if you were to get sick or had an extended period of an absence. What I am proposing to change is to make the position maybe look a little more attractive. If 0 to 5 years of service, our annual vacation hours are 96, which is 2 weeks and 2 days. Let's round up to 3 weeks. We'll give employees another 3 days off per year. 6 to 10 years of service, it goes up to 3 weeks it's currently 3 weeks vacation. I'm saying bump it up to 4 weeks. And if you've been here for 15 years, vacation would go from 4 weeks a year to 5 weeks a year. Again, there's no cost in doing that, and then a slide later on will show you why. So the city will observe the federal holiday schedule this year. I went to the Federal Office of Personnel and Management and downloaded it, what their holidays were, and I put it into salary and benefits resolution. I'm also proposing to grant the Fridays off after Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. They all fall on a Thursday this year. One thing that what we will not do this year, as we have in the past, is close over the winter break. Before we've taken and have been granted Christmas through New Year's off. It's been 5 to 6 to 7 to 8 days, however it's fallen on the calendar. This year, rather than doing that, we will work, I believe it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and I'm proposing at least to close at noon on Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve holidays, so folks can get home with family. The holidays total 14 days or 112 hours. Our sick leave accrual is currently 5.3 hours per month, but it's written at 16 hours per holiday quarter. Round up, give it to 8 hours. There's no cost to the city. And why I say there's no cost to the city is because upon termination, separation, or retirement, our accrued leave payout is capped at 160 hours for vacation. Sick leave is 224 hours. In the resolution, you'll see it calls for 28 days. So our payout's essentially capped at 384 hours, no matter if we increase vacation, this or that. And this cap was implemented right before, I think Michelle got here in about 2008, before it was endless. And it's since been followed by a designated reserve account set up for in case employees leave. Total annual time off in the salary and benefits resolution. I know this has been a question in years past. Vacation, if employees elect to take it, 3 weeks for the first year as proposed. The sick hours, if accrued at 8 hours per month, is 2 weeks and 2 days. Holidays that are scheduled is 112, totaling 328 hours of paid time off for annual leave for the cities. This excludes bereavement leave, jury duty, military duty. That's not thrown in there. What I am proposing for the management analyst position is a longevity pay or some type of incentive to get them to stay longer than 2 years. So in addition to any merit or COLA increases, only management analysts hired after July 1st, 2014 would be eligible for this. So if they work here for 2 years, and upon the city manager's approval, they would get a 5% bump in pay. 4 years is 10%, 6 years is 10%, another 5 years is, or 10 years is 5%. In the staff report, I believe this, if they were hired in at around 50,000, was only a $16,000 expense over 10 years. And in my opinion, the institutional knowledge that's going to come with somebody staying for the city that long is invaluable, rather than having to turn over every 2 years.
Or is that an at-will position?
Yeah. Then one of the last changes to the salary and benefits resolution are the current ranges for the executive assistant and intern. The executive assistant is 9 to 15 per hour. I'm proposing to go to 12 to 20 and to give them a $1 pay raise. And for the management intern, another $1 pay raise, going from $10 to $11 per hour.
I have a question I don't understand. If it's 9 now, and it's going to go to 12 to 20, or 9
So
to 15, I'm sorry.
It's a range.
9 to 15, you're gonna automatically kick them up $1 now, and then that will be the new range.
The new range would be 12 to 20. Yes.
Right, but you're talking about kicking everybody up $1, and the new range would be that.
Everybody being Bethany.
Being Bethany.
Let's get real.
Everybody, I'm proposing to bump Bethany up. She's been here for 4 years now and hasn't received a pay increase because she's been maxed out of her range. And I, being the city manager, don't have the authority
She's
to...
never had a pay increase the whole time she's been here? Oh my
The only she got into PERS? She got into PERS after 1,000 hours worked, and the 1 year where city council gave employees the one-time 3 or 4 or 5% merit increase, bonus check.
It was a bonus, it wasn't an increase.
That's all she's received in 4 years.
Yeah, Jared, how does this track with the private sector?
I haven't done that research.
Well, I can tell you for the
I can
executive
tell you.
assistant,
Rich.
that's really low, $16 an hour, because that's, that's low, so. I think it's very conservative.
And you indicated that this isn't not going to cost us anything because of the net on the payout. Is that your...
Well, the payouts are capped. So if we increase vacation, I mean, it would cost us a paid vacation day for an employee.
Yeah. And also with the medical coverage as an example, how does that track with the private sector about the dependents? I'm very curious about that.
I haven't done the research of that.
I can tell you that to some extent, Greg, the stuff's all over the place, okay?
It's all over the map.
Yeah, and because I've been running with this, and frankly, the only thing that kind of bothers me at all on this is the vacation. And I have to concede that Jared is extremely frugal. And to put it in more crude terms, he's probably cheaper than I am, okay? So it makes it real easy.
I'm not sure that's a compliment, but...
Well, Jared's pretty frugal, and so, I find myself having to sometimes encourage him to not be too frugal sometimes. It just is unnecessary, but so I give him a lot of latitude on this stuff because he does seem to be very conscientious in watching the city's money. The only thing that bothers me on this, frankly, is the vacation, because, and maybe I'm just sensitive to benefits after being on the fire authority board, but, and I do watch the private sector versus the public all the time, and I think there should be some semblance of similarity. I just don't see any justification for spending other people's money at substantially greater rates than you spend your own or your clients or your whoever it may be. And the only one here that sticks out to me is the vacation. I just don't know too many places where you get 2 months plus vacation. I mean, frankly, I'm lucky to get 2 weeks. So that one to me.
That shocked me too.
Yeah, it's just getting a little. That's an awful lot of time. That's a little heavy. The rest of it didn't really bother me. So those are my comments.
I think especially when you consider not all private sector folks are taking all the same federal holidays that government takes. They just don't.
And just so I can cover myself, this is always the only increase that really affects your total annual paid time off would be 3 additional days. The rest have been written into the salary and benefits resolution since I went back to 2002 today. It's been structured differently. Some years will take Columbus Day off. Some years will take Martin Luther off.
Yeah, the federal holiday, I get that, I totally get that, and I did that comparison to see where we were, because I was noticing that there are some things you weren't taking off, and you can't help where Christmas falls. It actually kind of bothers me to have you guys working until noon on Christmas Eve, to tell you the truth. It's like, why? You know, nobody's gonna come in here, they're all gonna be with their family. So this is all pretty new, you know, all of this information, so I spent a lot of time studying this. You're only talking about the 4 full-time employees that would be impacted. And with the health insurance, would that include you as well? Is that something that you're
My
negotiating?
health insurance is determined by the contract.
Okay, so you're completely out
I'm out of this.
You're out of this. So you're really only talking about 2 public works and
A potential analyst.
a potential analyst. And the other thing that really shocked me, and that I'm not quite sure how this is going to work, is the whole idea of these automatic bumps in addition to merit and COLA or whatever we happen to give, of 5% at the 2-year mark and 10% compounded, I'm assuming, at the 4-year mark, and 10% again at the 6-year mark, regardless of what financial reality we may be facing. You know, we're in a high right now. And that's where you always get yourself in trouble, or where government tends to get itself in trouble. You're on a high, give away the farm. Then the low hits, and it's like, whoa, oh wow, look what we did, and we made these promises. I just think back on times where we've attempted to try to sweeten the pot, you know, of other cities to keep people on board, given raises. Then they use that raise to prove to the other folks that they're applying to that they're worth more money. And of course, then they take that job and leave. You're our 4th city manager in my 8 years. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, if you count okay. And we're still surviving just fine. We have maintenance analysts come and go, and you change the name back and forth to make that look more attractive than saying you're a code enforcement assistant. I get that. But my concern is that I see what you're trying to do. The whole idea of saying we're going to give 5% on top of whatever and 10% on top of whatever automatically, assuming that their performance is what it is, we are never going to be, nor should we try to be, competing with larger, bigger budgeted cities. We can't do it. We are never going to be able to do it. And so I just think it's unwise of us to lock ourselves into this. I like the idea of the additional health, you know, payout. I think that could be, you know, a pot sweetener, something that doesn't really hurt. But this, I don't know that the vacation time, although it was shocking, the amount of time that we're giving off, it's almost like you're a school teacher with a union that's protecting your job and you have 2 months off. But these automatic bumps at the 2, 4, and 6-year mark, at such huge bumps, I don't know.
It's only for the one position.
It's just for the one position, I understand that, but how's everybody else gonna feel when this person just keeps getting these huge
If
bumps?
I could get somebody to stay here
because
for
that means they're staying.
4 or
Or they
6
always
years,
leave.
I'd be happy.
This is the one position they always leave on. That's why.
It's not the one position, well,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I'm trying to compete with other cities. If I was, I'd bump the salary up to 61 grand a year. But in reality, I mean, it's 47. We will never compete. I went today just to a government website that advertises jobs. Where did I put it? The 2 closest cities to us that I found in a matter of, you know, a 2-minute Google search was Vista and San Marcos. Vista was hiring in a range of 63 to 76,000 a year. San Marcos was 61 to 79. And then a management intern was hiring in Santa Ana for $18 an hour. I mean, we can't compete with that. There's no possible way. I'm just trying to find creative ideas. And if you don't like the 5% or 10%, let's make it 2 or 4% or whatever you're comfortable
something
with.
that's an automatic that they're shooting for. I could maybe stretch that far.
I like the automatic because it gives them something to shoot for, but I agree, I think 10% is a lot. I mean, I would be more comfortable with a minimum of 5%, up to 10% upon, you know, review and so on, but a minimum of 5%, and we can give you some sort of a range to do, if you can do that. I have an issue with the $700 for the health insurance. I'd like to see that number closer to 5. I think it's a good benefit. That's just what I think when this is the highest HMO at 602. I think a $500 cash incentive benefit or a rebate at that point is satisfactory. That's just something I see there. And when it comes to the, I just want to clarify, when it comes to the vacation, ultimately, all you've done is add 3 more days. Am I correct?
Yes.
Ultimately. So all of this has already been set here prior to the sitting council. Okay,
Three more days for 0 to 5 years of service.
for 0 to 5.
For 6 to 10, I've essentially added a week. So if
And
you've been
have-
here for 6 years,
and-
you'll get another week's vacation.
How many years have you worked here?
I've been here for 8.
For 8.
I've been here for 8. Rich Manning is 10 plus, and Mike Knowles is coming up on 30.
Okay, so you've been here for 8, but we've had 4 city managers in 8 years. So we're glad to have you. Because 4 city managers in 8 years is not a positive thing upon a city. So I'm glad that you've stayed here and that we have some longevity.
Yeah.
I'd like to see manager Alice stay a little bit longer
Oh,
too.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we have to think about the replacement costs. I think that's the what we're really worried about. But, you know, it doesn't have to be automatic. I mean, there could be something triggered by you, or you come to us for a special raise for these individuals instead of locking it in stone, which may be a little more reasonable way to approach it. But the spirit of what you're doing for the salary, I think, is good. We understand that because you pointed out the replacement cost and the legacy knowledge is important. So I concur with that, certainly.
Let me try and thread the needle here if I can. Here's my suggestion. I can't support the increased vacation. You know, I got to represent the public, and it's a small amount, and therefore I don't see it as a big sacrifice because there's already a ton of vacation. I just can't, from a philosophical, ethical position, support that. I do like what you're doing here on the management analyst position for the continuity, blah, blah, blah. I understand the concerns about fixing it. So my suggestion would be, and I don't know that I even have a problem with this, but my suggestion would be in light of other concerns, that we approve this with city manager discretion. So in other words, council approves this schedule. It's one person, and it's a person we lose a lot. It's a follow-on successor for the city manager. It's a kind of an important position. It's not a huge salary that it's at now. We only have to pay it if we manage to keep him for the first time. So, you know, Jared is very close to the people in that office. It's a small office. He knows exactly he tends to know exactly what's going on. Well, I would suggest that we approve this at the city manager's discretion, and he can utilize this as necessary to try and keep our people. So that would be, I think that's a kind of a balance. And I know Jared's very frugal. I'm not really too worried about him.
There's a
going
sentence
overboard.
in there where eligible analysts receive an annual base rate pay increase subject to the satisfactory performance and the approval of the city manager in the following increments. So rather than labeling out 5%, 10%, 10%, we can do up to 5% across the board, or up to 5%, or up to 3%,
I like a guarantee because I think they should be able to work towards something. People do stay when they know that they're going to get a payout or a bonus or a minimum of a 5%, and you can do a up to.
We have to remember that this is
less
in
than other places too.
this
So
is,
this is not a problem.
but this is in addition to any other merit or COLA raise that they would be receiving. I could probably go 3,553, and I think it should be a hard number if you're going to do it.
I frankly don't have a problem with what's here on an up-to basis with the city manager's discretion, because they're going to be working very closely together.
This is what it says already. Go back and look at, you're looking at the narrative. Go back, that's what it already says.
This is page 6 of 7,
Here, keep going.
resolution
Keep
33.
going.
Keep flipping?
Yeah, keep flipping.
What
You're-
page am I going to?
You're going to go right all the way into
To
the
the
actual
resolution?
resolution, 2014-3283. Be sure you don't confuse yourself with the 2013.
Where
And
are we
look at
looking?
page 6 of 7.
Oh. Well, I've only got,
Number 6.
I don't even have that many
Yes,
pages.
yeah,
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, you do. Keep going. No, keep going.
There's 3 of them all
There's
together.
resolutions that we're passing That's the one that you're looking for. Keep going. A couple more pages. You're just about there. Booyah.
Okay.
There you go.
Our department becomes at a fixed rate as follows. How does this address, oh, I see what you're saying, paragraph
With the
six, paragraph
city
six.
manager,
No,
city
I'm-
manager
yeah, it's
approval.
above section 3. Eligible longevity pay. Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is to alleviate a little bit of the concern over the size of this, is instead of saying, shall receive, say, or eligible longevity pay, eligible receive, in other words, will receive an annual base pay increase subject to satisfactory performance approval of city manager in the following increments. Yeah, I guess there is. I guess there is latitude, although we kind of put the burden on Jared now, because now if he doesn't want to do it, he's got to turn around and
But
nix
you know
what's
he's gonna.
already been given
So I
to him.
think that we ought to assume that he's gonna, and I think we ought to assume that 3553 is good.
I think 3% is not, it's just not.
CPI is 3% right now.
It's not enough.
It's adequate for some people
this
aren't
is-
getting any raises right
not.
now.
Well, I
That's
agree,
okay.
but this is
We want to
different.
keep people.
I
This is
think,
different.
I
This
think
is
a
key
minimum
person
is,
compensation for
I think a minimum is
long-term
called
retention.
for with a cap.
I think the bigger
I think
number,
that's-
so up to, and let the
Yeah.
city manager have discretion.
I think that a basement number up to a maximum is called for here at your discretion. After all, it's not a huge number, and I think we should take, I don't want to go with this vacation stuff. I mean, that's double. So it's about the same amount of money, actually, when you consider the days off. So, I know.
You can do a 3 to 5%, 5 to 10%, 5 to 10% range, and then another 3 to 5% range.
Unless somebody's got
At
something
5 to
further,
10
I'm
to
gonna
me
make
is
a
fine.
motion.
Yeah,
And then you're
5
taking,
to
and then
10.
you're
Yeah.
taking away the vacation, putting the vacation back to the original.
Normal.
We can, do you want to go back to the beginning, and we'll take it one by one, and then do?
Well,
Yes.
it's all a package though, so.
It is a package, and we're really only doing this for the sake of one individual that we hope to retain and prepare for Jared leaving. That's what it sounds like, right? Where are you going, Jared? See? Okay, so, but all four,
Everybody's got to go sometime.
all four people will be able to take advantage of the health insurance buyout if somebody's going to get it from their spouse. But we're paying, what we're paying,
Paying minimum $602 a month.
but the vacation time goes for all full-time employees.
An additional 3 days after 5 years.
An additional 3 days now for 0 to 5 years.
From 0 to
Up to 5.
Like
After
immediately.
5 years,
Immediately
It's
through
an
the,
additional week.
okay, and it's prorated based by how many,
No.
do you pray? You prorate. If they're only here 3 months, they don't get
Oh,
to
it's-
take a
you
week
just get 3 more
vacation.
days. That's what that says.
No, we accrue.
It's prorated. You have to still work the time to earn it. Yes,
You accrue it a month.
you accrue it, yes.
But still, you get it the first year.
You would accrue it, you accrue it,
extra
yes.
days, yeah.
So you get it monthly. You
Prorated.
take them on the job for a month and then take a month's vacation.
Correct.
I'm gonna take a shot at, excuse me, Greg, go ahead.
All right.
I'm gonna take a shot at a motion here, and
Wait, what Jared wanted, I like Jared's idea. He was gonna go through each of these
We can go back
proposals
to the staff report, because those were the only changes were made.
one at a
Well,
time.
they were made to the resolution, but I spelled out the changes in the staff report.
Okay.
So we can go back to the staff report, which is page 2 of 6 is where we'll start.
Okay.
Section 1 and 3 is just position, title, and salary rates, which are set, but nothing's changing there except for assistant planner to management analyst. Retirement, employees are going from 5% to 6%. Cafeteria benefits, here's the medical payout. So currently the city's paying $602 a month for medical benefits for full-time employees. If an employee elects not to receive that coverage, I'm proposing that the cash rebate go from $150 to $400, and for the employee-only coverage, and then from $250 to $700 if dependents were coverage.
Is the 250 to 7 currently 150 also?
No, it's $250. It's
Currently it's 250?
It's 150
Yeah.
and 250.
Got it.
150 for the employee,
250 for the employee
But
plus one.
we actually end up saving money, a little bit of money.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot.
In the private sector, this, from what I know, this is unheard
Well,
of,
not
by the
really.
way. I mean, if an employee works at a place that offers
They're gonna kick
medical,
in a lesser
and
plan,
the
a higher plan,
spouses
they need to cover it.
works at another place that has
They're gonna take-
superior medical,
Exactly.
then they take that.
They're gonna
That's a
take it.
no-brainer.
Big cost
Then
more.
their current employer just doesn't have to do it. I mean, that's in the private sector. This is fair, this is unusual. I see your point on it, but this is a great benefit. Man, it's really good for someone.
I've had this benefit. We also gave it to our employees
Mm-hmm.
before also, because it's a great incentive for them not to have, because a lot of people just say, if you're not gonna give me anything, then I'm just gonna make you pay for it. You know, and just in case I need it, then that's there.
Sure.
So I consider it a good benefit. You're winning in the end.
But this is on the high side. I mean,
I think $500 is good. The $150 for an employee, if you're paying a minimum of $600 and all you're giving back is $150 in a rebate,
it's low.
that's really
Yeah,
low.
it's low.
Yeah, that's really low. You know, the 400 is great. I think from the 7, I just like the number 5 for the dependent. But
Yeah, I agree. With dependents, 500. I
instead of
agree with that.
700.
So 400 and then 500.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I just think
I'm into that
700
too.
is big.
I agree.
And that's great.
That's a great benefit.
Oh, it is. And
That's a selling
the reason
point to
we
getting a
run
job.
this is should that incoming analyst, elect to get coverage elsewhere, this now might make that base rate go from 47 to 49.
Sure.
A little
Yeah.
more appealing to him.
And that's only if they're electing an HMO too, because if they elect another plan that we have, you're still only giving them
We only pay the highest station.
the
rate.
highest. So
yeah,
they
the
may have a
highest.
plan that is
But Kaiser is the
$900.
highest,
So,
Yeah,
unless
Kaiser's
they have
the
a
highest.
PPO.
I like 5 bills too on the family.
And just to be clear, that in no way actually will affect their PERS in any fashion. It really isn't even part of their pay.
Is that
No,
for each
it's not
dependent?
base
It's
building.
included in the benefit package when you
Yeah.
see the salary plus benefits. It's in
Yes.
the benefit package.
Right.
Okay.
So we
So-
include it already we include the 600 already because we don't know what they're gonna, take, whether they take it or not. If they don't take it, it's a savings. So either way, it'll be a savings if they don't take it, because we budget for the full 600.
Okay, got it, thank you.
So I just want to make sure I'm clear, is that the dependents, there's only one dependent involved with this? There's not 3 or 4 dependents?
And that's where the 700 is now proposed to be 500. It's employee plus one. So once you get
Right.
that plus one or plus
Family.
question mark family,
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
it's going to be the $500.
It's still
Same
500.
only. Spouse and or
Not
family,
per-
it's the
It's
same.
not plus
Yeah.
500 plus
Okay.
500
It's
plus
total.
500.
Like, you can see how this could be
Still
gained.
2,500 for her family.
It's total.
So I'm gonna think
Yeah.
about that. Anyway,
3,000, I guess. Yeah, no, it's just the
Depend-
2 categories.
it's just
Employee
employee plus
employee
one.
independents.
Okay, one dependent.
Correct.
Look,
Or
singular.
Same
So it
difference.
sounds like we may be in agreements with 400 and 500. Moving on to the next section, which is vacation. This is where I'm proposing 3 more days a year annually for 0 to 5, and then another week's vacation after 6 years of service.
I don't see any need to change this at all, really, myself. 0 need.
I'm actually in this camp.
It's a lot
Yeah,
of
I
time.
I'm
think
good. I'm
that's-
good with keeping it like it is.
Yeah,
Also,
I agree.
yeah,
Keep it
I am.
as
I
is.
think
So
it's- I
that's
think it's
90,
good.
96 hours, 1 through 5, 120 hours, 6 through 10.
That's rich enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, that's what we're already doing.
Right, and that's fine. Holidays, that's
We're
good, that's a
pretty-
given.
Pretty good here. I mean, and I believe our employees are very good to the city too. So I think it all works out rather than have it.
Moving along to the holidays, this is just to match this year's federal calendar, observing their 10 holidays, which if we take the Friday off after Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, and close at noon on Christmas and New Year's, totals 14 days.
Okay.
Then the next would be the sick leave, rounding up from 5.33 hours per month to 8 hours per month. Keep as is, or
As is, as
As
far as I'm
is.
concerned.
Yeah, I can't see that either.
That's
Enough's enough.
And then the second to last is going to be the longevity pay. We
I'd like to see it 5 to 10%. Minimum of 5 and your discretion to 10.
I'd like to leave it where you have it, but I'd like to just give you the latitude to award up to that, so that if that person's there, you can deal with them, you know how valuable they are, and you can let them know, they're getting 10% if that's what it takes. I like having those numbers are fine with me, because I know you're frugal, I know you came up with those. I'm okay with those numbers, it's not a huge starting compensation, some of those people are pretty sophisticated. I'm okay with it as long as it's up to and it's yours. I don't want to put it in here as a given. I just want to give you latitude to go to those numbers as a specific pre-sanctioned authorization from council. That's my position.
Yay.
I actually agree with you.
Yeah, that's good.
I will add eligible analysts may receive.
Yeah.
And then
That's the word. No will or shall.
At
Yeah.
city manager's discretion, I want to make it clear that they're not out there in la-la limbo land with the city council. You have the authority up to 10%, and if they're dealing with you and you're happy, and they know and you let them know they're getting it because you're happy with them, that's fine with me. That, to me, if it was a bigger operation, I'd be more worried about doing what you've done, so they knew where they were at. This is not a big operation. You guys are like this, okay? If you've got that discretion, the council's already given it to you, and they're comfortable with you, they know they're there, and that'll accomplish the same purpose without committing to it. So I think it's more beneficial to have you with a latitude than just to give it to them. So that's my suggestion.
We'll have the word may and then up to percentages.
And the percentages stay
Yeah,
the way
and
they are. Perfect.
Clearly that you have that discretion.
Better.
So it does not have to come back to us.
No, I want it in there so that anybody that's involved sees that you have the right to do that, period. It's already approved.
And then, the last proposed changes are the part-time positions and salary range.
Not a problem.
That's fine.
Yeah, run
I'm
it.
good.
No issue there.
No issue.
So that would be the salary and benefits resolution. The other resolutions before you are setting the appropriations limits, adopting the budget and the GAN limit, and then reducing the employer paid member contribution, and that's going from 2% to the.
Can somebody give me a brief explanation of the GAN limit again? It leaves as soon as I get it.
It's, layman's terms, it's basically taking your taxes and your revenues starting in, I believe, 1987. There was a dollar amount in 1987 that we started from, and there's a percentage of population and per capita increase each year. That's a factor. It's a calculation we do. But it's basically saying that you have enough revenue to cover the expenditures that they anticipate would increase based on the CPI and population and whatnot. So we're well under the threshold. It's not an issue for us at all. It's like a ridiculous. It's almost like I think our GAN limits. The variation is like $1 million every year, like between what our limit should be versus what they're saying. So it's like we've never been anywhere close to be like, oh, we should worry.
So the significance of the limit, the way it's calculated, the limit is a percentage that you have to keep your budget under a percentage of your tax revenue based upon the percentage they developed in '87. Is that the concept?
No, they're saying that based on the population, based on the variations, CPI, per capita increase, what they're anticipating your taxes would increase and the expenditures of your city, what are you at on your revenue in this fiscal year based on this increasing increment? And we have a whole schedule. I think you've seen it. And you put in what you project for your taxes for the next fiscal year, and you put in the calculated dollar amount based on this 87 number. Honestly, it came back in 87, and that's we start from that number every year, and it's audited. Making sure that there is a variance and that you are not exceeding, you're not taxing more than what they anticipate you should.
So the concept of the limit is to make sure that you have a spread between your expenditure level and your taxable base?
We should never exceed it. That's the goal. This is the limit. What are your taxes? This is the limit. Is there a buffer?
Okay. All right.
Yes, there is.
That's all I was.
So we have a buffer, what, 25, 30%?
Oh, yeah, at least.
This is really for other cities, not us.
Somebody want to make a
Government.
make a motion?
Well,
This is here.
Go ahead, I'm
well,
sorry,
are we ready to start doing that yet?
We can do that, or now we can move on to the
Well,
budget.
we have,
and the changes.
Okay.
what we have with these changes, how's that gonna be read? We need to have that all read back.
So the changes we just discussed,
Yeah.
I'll work on that while we go over the budget, and then I'll read it back at the end when we adopt the resolution.
Okay. Well,
Take care of that.
okay.
All right.
So now, under the budget. Would you like a report, or do you have any questions?
I don't think I looked at this, there were really nothing significant to the budget. The only thing was recategorize that, as I recall, we changed a word or something for Councilman Pauly, and then I think we recategorized that security budget. 100,000 went to our undesignated reserves, another 100,000 went to capital improvements generally, and 50 stayed in the budget category.
Right.
Unless there's something more than that, I don't want to hear it again.
No, we don't,
I'm
we
done.
don't like the cameras and the drones, so.
Been scrubbed.
If that's correct, then I'm not interested unless someone else is.
I'm good.
No.
We're done with that one, George. You can vote on that.
I think we beat it up pretty good. I do think before we start getting into that, though, we have members of the community here that might want to weigh in on some of this. And so we should allow for that before we start.
We'll certainly invite the community. I'll be surprised. We have someone,
Mr. Stone?
I would like to ask, when did you?
I apologize for omitting the community. Usually nobody wants to get
Yes,
involved in
perfectly
budget,
right.
but
I am surprised by the way you are discussing this matter, in the sense that, have you seen this information prior to this meeting?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We've had a budget study
Because
session that went for
I
quite some
didn't
time.
know that, and I was thinking that it was kind of, you were kind of playing with the number without
No.
knowing exactly what
No.
was being proposed.
no,
Absolutely not.
we have budget committee meetings, and then we move it to the council level. We've already had one of those, and we beat it to death and sat here. And the only change we made was, there was a $250,000 item for security and budgeted for capital improvements for cameras or security systems. And we looked at it, we broadened the category from cameras to security, and we.
Infrastructure.
Of the 250,000 we have budgeted to spend, we put 100,000 of it in undesignated reserves just for our reserves for a stormy, rainy day. We took another 100,000 of it, we pushed it into capital improvements generally in that category, and we left 50,000 of it in security so that we then can be a little more flexible. And that's all we did, and that's why it was so easy this week.
Thank you for the explanation.
And we don't have to spend it either, so that's the
right.
issue.
And it is on our website. It was televised, if I remember correctly, in case anybody can't sleep one night and wants to watch it.
Okay, any further, go ahead.
Two quick questions. I'm Janice Bjorklund, Hunting Circle. I thought we were going to get a copy of the budget tonight, but the public doesn't get a copy of it to look at as you're
I think it's on the
discussing
website.
it?
It's on the
I
website.
think it's on the website,
Yeah.
but you're certainly welcome to it.
I see. You needed to print it out before you came.
He
I
just passed you
misunderstood
one.
that, so my error. I had one other question, and it's just because of an ignorance on my part. In listening to, I'm aware of health rebates for those who don't take, and I understand what you talked about. But those members who are currently getting 150 are now going to get a rebate of 400?
Nobody's actually taking advantage of that program right now.
It's only for full-time employees, and the full-time employees that we have are actually using the medical insurance. So
Okay.
we are not.
That I didn't, when you
Future
kept
employees
saying
would
there
get
was no cost to this, and I'm sitting there seeing if rebates are being given out at 150 that are now going to go. So you're only talking about a new employee getting this rebate, or a current employee who has coverage.
Essentially, a current employee can elect not to receive medical
Right.
insurance, and they would get this rebate, but we'd still be
It would be a
paying.
step down then.
Right.
I didn't understand, I couldn't
And
understand that
since
from
I've
your
been here in
discussion.
2007, never have we paid it. So everybody's always accepted the insurance, so, just for information.
Well, thank you. You know, I frankly love it when the community sticks their nose into the budget, because it makes it easier for us. You know, I get somebody else looking at it, we get some input, and we don't have to feel like, we're doing it alone, so I appreciate the input. Anyone else? Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Okay. And appearing none, all right, back to the council. Go ahead, Deborah.
Well, just to put this kind of in perspective, last week I was at the Orange City Council meeting, and they were all proud about the fact that they were putting another $500,000 in their undesignated reserves. We are putting another $300,000 in our undesignated reserves. We're sitting at 62% of general fund operating expenditures sitting in our reserve funds, which is quite an enviable position. This whole process actually starts at the beginning of the year, where we come together as a council and staff and come up with our plans for the year. What types of projects do we want to do? And we beat those things up. I feel like we're really very blessed as a community. First of all, there are those that want to complain about how much we pay our part-time financial director, Michelle Danaher, but she is exceptional. She's an exceptionally gifted woman, and she really keeps an eye on things. She is a strict constitutional conservative, and she is extremely fiscally conservative in how she budgets, as is Jared. When I'm looking at these things, we're in way better shape than the city surrounding us. I feel really, really confident and comfortable with what we're doing. I went through and I actually pulled out the very first budget that I was involved in. The first budget that I was involved in was the 07-08 budget, and at that time, we only had $690,000 in our general reserve and actually no reserve fund policy. And we had nothing that was labeled as designated reserves for things that we knew we were probably going to have to do, like buy a new public works trucks or pay out for somebody who's already accrued benefits like vacation and sick leave, and they decided to leave the city. So these are huge improvements that we've made forward. At the same time, I'm also looking at what we were spending at that time on all salary and benefits. We were only spending $530,000 a year in all salary and benefits, and now we're sitting at what, $660,000, or that's what's proposed budget. That's quite a bit more, but that might just be the reality of, the world we're living in. That's in a very short period of time. The other thing that I wanted to double check my numbers, because when I first got on the council, we were only spending 28% of our budget on law enforcement. The very first full budget cycle was 29%. Last year was 30%. This year we're at 32% of our budget. We're getting no more additional services for that. We're just paying more, and we're just at the mercy of the County Board of Supervisors and how they negotiate things. What we did here tonight was an example of COIN, this public complete transparency in how we were negotiating what we're planning to do. Everybody could sit right here and watch us go through the steps. This is what we're thinking about doing with a new position. And every city should be doing that. But we do it, and it gives us a great opportunity to tap into the wealth of knowledge and ability we have in our community to keep us on the straight and narrow. And there have been more than a few times in the past where they've come in and whacked us upside the head. They come in with the pitchforks and they straighten us out. And we're glad to have that happen. So I'm really pleased with this budget. This is the first year I can say I'm 100% pleased with where we are. Before we get into going to resolutions, I just have one thing I would like to ask that we can do, because it's important to me, is the resolution where we're talking about increasing the employee paid contribution, that resolution 2014-3284. I would like to see if it's possible under the final whereas, where it's talking about the benefit shall apply to all employees of the miscellaneous plan, that we're saying that the employees' contribution increases to 6% and the city's decreases to 1%, so that it makes it clear, what exactly we're doing here. So if that could be added to that resolution, that's the only thing I would really like to see happen. Thank you.
Okay.
So how are we going to make these
Resolution.
motions?
By resolution, by
Okay.
resolution.
Okay.
Starting with
32,
2014-3283.
3283. soon as he's ready for us.
That's adopting the GAN limit.
Correct.
Resolution 2014-3283 is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Villa Park adopting the budget, appropriating revenue, and establishing the appropriations limit for fiscal year 2014-15.
I move.
I'll second.
Mayor Pro Tem Fasenelli?
Yes.
Councilman Polly?
Yes.
Councilman Mills?
Yes.
Councilman Reese?
Yes.
Mayor Barnett?
Yes.
Next is Resolution 2014-3284.
I would like,
Resolution-
yes, I'm sorry, go on.
The City Council of the City of Villa Park adopting the employer-paid member contributions. And I will make the update as you just recommended on the floor, where it will spell out the employer's rate is 6%. The employer's rate is 1% and the employee's rate is 6%.
Reduced to 1%, increased to 6%.
Got it.
Show clearly what we've been working toward. And I will move it with those changes.
I'll second.
Councilman Polly?
Yes.
Councilman Mills?
Yes.
Councilman Reese?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Fasenelli?
Yes.
Mayor Barnett?
Yes.
Next is resolution number 2014-3285, establishing salary and benefit rates for all classes of employment, and superseding resolution number 2013-3259. And this is what we discussed at the beginning of the meeting, and for the benefit of the public, I will go through and state changes. So we reduced the employee dependent coverage from 700 to 500. We're keeping the vacation as it currently is. We're keeping the sick as it currently is. And then I'll have our legal counsel read the miscellaneous benefits with regard to the longevity pay.
Well, the longevity pay will be, that eligible analysts may receive an annual base rate pay increase subject to satisfactory performance and the approval of the city manager, who in his discretion may provide base pay rate increases in the amount up to the following increments.
And that's what's published. Okay.
5%.
The holiday also.
5%,
published.
10%, 10%, 10%.
Okay, up to.
Yes, yeah,
Up
the
to.
holidays will
Okay.
change to the
The 3 additional. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll make
That's
the
the only
motion.
changes?
Those are the only changes, except I forgot some pages with the part-time positions. Those are the
I so
part-time.
move.
Yes.
We have a second?
Brad just
Yeah.
got you.
Brad, no, I got a second, okay. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Brad.
Councilman Reese?
Yes.
Councilman Mills?
Yes.
Councilman Polly?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Fasenelli?
Yes.
Mayor Barnett?
Yes.
And we have an adopted balanced budget for fiscal year 14-15.
It looks good. Thank you so much, staff, for an outstanding job.
Yeah, great job.
So next, we move along to the consent calendar.
Okay, on to the next item, hang on. We're on to the consent calendar. So who wants to pull an item?
5.
Okay. Any others? All right, Deborah, it's all yours. That way, unless we want to move the balance, somebody want to move the balance?
Approve the remainder of it. Yes.
Yes, I so move.
Okay, second? Somebody second?
Second.
You did.
All right, go ahead, Jared.
Approve the remainder of the consent calendar. Councilman Mills?
Yes.
Councilman Reese?
Yes.
Councilman Polly?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Fasenelli?
Yes.
Mayor Burnett?
Yes. Okay, Deborah, it's all yours.
Thank you very much. Item 5 were the minutes from the May 24th meeting, and I have a correction that I would like to make on page 4 of 9, where I had removed the financial treasurer's report for the month of April 2014. Yes, I did ask a question of Michelle about the Wells Fargo Cash Bank deposit sweep, but the main point of my polling that was for the sake of looking at the financial treasurer's report for the month and asking whether or not it was time for us to adjust the policy with regard to investment percentages to more accurately reflect the reality of the past several years. That was the main point of my polling those minutes. As I pointed out at that time, we have got a minimum or a maximum of like 80% of total investments that are allowed to go into, well, let me get this correct here, LAIF, but we're never anywhere near that. None of these percentages are accurately reflecting where we actually are with our investments, particularly since we've instituted the laddered CD investment policy. So I'm just asking, and that's what I asked for in those minutes, that the Investment Advisory Committee make some adjustments to that so you don't have to keep writing that down all the time.
Our meeting is at the end of, or mid-July, so, and we're discussing the investment policy.
Okay. Well, that's what I would like to have the minutes reflect. That was the main point of my discussing that item.
I'll go back, listen to the video, type it up just as you stated, and we can approve the minutes tonight, subject to.
That change will be fine with me. I'll move it with the change, yeah, fine.
I believe I heard Councilman Mills.
Yes, you did.
Councilman Polly.
Yes.
Councilman Mills.
Yes.
Councilman Reese.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Fasenelli.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes.
The final item, number 7, Mayor and Council Member matters. Individual
All right.
Council Member information items and/or required meeting attendance reports.
Let me jump in just for a second, ask a question I'm sure everyone will be interested in. I have a check here for $95,901 payable to CalPERS for the prepay. This is, I presume, instead of paying monthly. What do we save by writing this check in up front?
$4,000 a year. I mean, I think. Oh wait, that one is. No, I think it's 8,000. Yeah, it's 8,000 on that one.
Okay, well, that's about a 9% return, so.
It's a lot better than the banks.
That will be signed, and that's done. And then I have one more item here. I have a memorandum regarding CalPERS termination. Was this shared with everyone?
Excuse me, sorry, my throat's extremely dry. Yes, I put this at your desk tonight, and this is, subject is regarding terminating the city's contract with CalPERS, which has been previously discussed in the past. So I pulled the most recent actuarial report from CalPERS, and their numbers are based off 2 years prior. So the most recent report is June 30, 2012. And this is where things get complicated.
You mean like they can't do mathematics in Sacramento? Okay.
Unfunded liability is shown 3 or 4 times on the plan. So it shows an unfunded market value liability as of June 30 of $1 million, just over $1 million. It shows an unfunded assessed value liability, it's not in the report, of $688,000. But according to CalPERS, the plan's liability on a termination basis is calculated different than just the ongoing funding liability. So they provided us, Michelle and I had a conference call with them yesterday, and they provided us with should the city adopt the notice of intent resolution to terminate its contract with CalPERS, a hypothetical unfunded termination liability of $3.5 million. And that's as of June 30, 2012. So what would happen between, say at the next meeting, the July meeting, council adopted the resolution of intent to terminate. CalPERS would send actuarials down here to provide us with a preliminary actuarial analysis. And they are estimating a unfunded termination liability that it could exceed $5 million because our numbers are going off figures from 2 years ago. That would be the lump sum that the city would either have to pay in a lump sum or amortize it over the course of several years to terminate its retirement contract with CalPERS.
So, I'm going to propose, frankly, I'm going to propose that we put this on an agenda item so we can really consider it.
Yeah.
But I just want to point out that here's a city that diligently pays its bills, okay? Here's a check I just signed for $95,000 to prepay the entire public pension cost for the year in advance. We're completely up to date. and their actuaries are working on it, telling us we're good. So we have now paid all the money to cover our employees' retirement on an ongoing basis. And yet, if we want to step out of there and eliminate the liability because we disagree with the way they're doing business, we think they're running a little roughshod and being a little irresponsible, then all of a sudden, well, you know what, if you're going to leave and not have any more responsibility for those people that you've already paid for in full, in advance in this case, then it's going to cost you $5 million, okay? So what does that tell you about CalPERS' candor and honesty in evaluating the liability and charging the cities and all the people in the city? So, you know, I'd like to have this agendized because I want them to explain to the press as well why we don't have any liability as long as we stay in there and we're on the hook. But if we want to leave and challenge their estimates, it's going to cost us $5 million. So I'd like to agendize it.
I agree with you, we should agendize it for discussion, but I think what it tells me is they don't want anyone to leave because it busts up the Ponzi scheme.
Right,
That's the
exactly
whole
it.
problem. But wow, those numbers were shocking. I didn't think they would look anything like this.
I tried to find some more information from the city of Canyon Lake, which is about 60 miles east of here. Out of all my Googling, they were the last city council to adopt the resolution of intent to terminate. That was April 2013. You go to their websites, and I tried to download the minutes, and of course nothing's on there. And I call the city. In the last month or two, they have a new city manager and a new city clerk. And I talked to them, and are you still in CalPERS? Are you out? Oh, no, they still have CalPERS. So something happened between April last year and April and this year. And my guess is they were reading the same figures that I was of, you know, $1 million, and then all of a sudden that $1 million quadrupled. So they elected not to terminate. But I'm still trying to get some information from CalPERS, and I'll absolutely agendize this for.
Do they have a local representative that can come and explain this to us?
It's an actuarial who you need to speak with, because anybody else you speak with at PERS is like, well, you gotta look on page 4. And so you look on page 4 and like, well, no, let's look on page 8. And then you, oh, no, let's go over here. And like Jared said, there is an unfunded liability almost on every single page. But the hypothetical termination unfunded liability is a lot bigger than the unfunded liability over here. It's unfortunately actuaries. I mean, it's a different kind of language.
Well, they also have, don't they have, they're given certain sets of rules they have to follow when they're doing those calculations.
Oh, absolutely.
Just like the CBO.
Right.
So it depends on how they're loaded up.
And that's why they say that they're gonna, you know, if, once we file the notice of intent to terminate, we're gonna get a preliminary evaluation. So that number is gonna be maybe 5 million. And then if you say yes, there's a final evaluation, which is different, you know? So it's hard, it's super frustrating, because you can't get anybody to explain it, you know, in a logical sense, because I don't think there's a lot of logic.
How much would it cost us to get that analysis?
Well, that's what this, all we have to do is ask for it. We're gonna do the resolution.
I thought they'd charge us at least.
It's funny you bring that up because
$1,000.
today
Sure, that'll be
I
back
saw
to
where they'll charge us $300 or $900.
Thousand?
Actuarial analysis.
That's-
$900.
Oh.
That's worth it for the entertainment value to
No,
let them
absolutely.
explain to the
And I
the
couldn't make sense
public.
of that today because you read one report and then a week later there's another and it's a different dollar amount.
It's worth it to
Very
just let them explain to the public how you've got this apples and oranges number. I mean, it would be worth it.
300 or 900? Did it matter what kind of city you were? Was that for every kind of city? I think part of the problem is, you know, our PERS dollars follows all the employee, you know, we do have some employees that have tapped into PERS and they've gone out, they've dispersed. So that still follows them wherever the heck they've gone, you know?
But still, we're paying $100,000
Yeah.
a year or about that, and we get an $8,000 discount. Gosh.
Because they want that money. I mean, what's 8 or 9%? They project
Maybe we
earnings.
should factor other cities. We can make some money that way.
It's a Ponzi scheme.
If you know what factoring is.
It's a Ponzi scheme. If it wasn't the government, they'd be indicted.
We could buy their paper.
That's creative accounting.
If it was private corporation, somebody'd be indicted.
Oh, definitely.
You know,
No
but
question
since it's
asked.
the government, there's nobody to indict them. And I usually wait till the end for do my little whatever I'm gonna do, usually nothing for the council items. However, I think that in view of what we discussed, I'm just gonna toss out and ask Jared a question as well. the firefighters union is apparently lobbying the county to support state legislation to assess the city's liability under the joint powers agreement for the fire authority's massive hundreds of millions, maybe $1 billion in reality, deficit. I just requested an opinion of council on that liability, and before I could even get a day before I could even get the opinion, there's a lobby effort going on to stick the city with their share of that liability. And I think, unless I'm mistaken, was that meeting last night, or is it tonight?
That's a perceived share. Isn't that a perceived share? That's not really a share of our liability at this point in time.
Well, we've got a participative interest. What happens is that the fire authority was set up as a joint powers agency amongst the cities and the county, with the county's consent apparently, and in the liability is governed by the document. The document spells out whether the participating cities have individual liability or whether the joint powers agency is a separate agency and it has its liability, and the liability ends there, and it doesn't follow to the cities. In the case of Villa Park, there is a structural fire fund allocation on the property tax bill for which $1.5 million something for Villa Park, and we donate that to the fire authority, and that's our fee. And correspondingly, that joint powers agreement explicitly provides that the cities have no liability for the fire authority's indebtedness. Yeah, that the fire authority stands as its own agency. So the union has found out about that. Now they're lobbying to have the state pass legislation that says we're all liable. So despite the fact that the city explicitly contracted to not have liability and has never had it, they now want to have passed a statute that retroactively imposes it on the city. So I could see massive lawsuits on this and the ACC or whatever, and I'm sure everybody will be up in arms over it. I think the meeting with the county was either last night or night before. I don't know what happened.
Was today, and I believe
today.
I believe the item was continued.
Today.
Yeah, it's continued.
What happened, Chris?
They said the board of supervisors said they support in concept.
That's what they did, supported in and that is probably because.
Wait a minute. Yeah, let's get that report. That was on today's agenda?
Yes, there was a board advisory that just came out from the OCFA that item was before the board of supervisors today, and that was to support that legislation. So the only language that they made in that letter to their lobbyists was that they support that legislation in concept. So the item or the legislation that the firefighters union is trying to get is, as Mayor Barnett said, is that according to our joint powers agreement, the JPA as a whole owns the unfunded liability, and so what the firefighters union is trying to do is, in the case that anyone withdraws from the fire authority, as there have been threats made by various cities that they will do that, they cannot withdraw without also taking their portion of their unfunded liability with them.
Chris, do you know what it provides if the fire authority were to fail? Forget the people pulling out. What if the authority just fails?
I don't know what or if it mentions anything like that, and I am by no means an attorney, so but I just know in concept what the legislation is that they're trying to get, and that is it's really as a defense in the case that anyone withdraws from the OCFA, that they cannot withdraw without also taking their unfunded liability, with their portion of that unfunded liability.
Which essentially means no one can withdraw from the OCFA. That's the practical.
Yeah,
that's the
that's what it's
practical
all
financial impact. You can't withdraw from the OCFA.
Kind of like
Do you know-
CalPERS.
Right.
Do you know whether there was any discussion? I suspect that the county is concerned that they'll have the liability if we don't get it, and that's probably why they're.
I don't know. I wasn't at the meeting, and I don't know of any of the discussion. I had a staff meeting that I was at, but all I know is that we did put out a board advisory late this afternoon, and that did say that the county did move to support in concept. The letter originally said to support the legislation, but They said they support the legislation in concept, was the change that they made.
So in other words, the county board has shifted it back to the cities that are participating. Is that correct, Rick?
No, what's happened is the county apparently has taken the position that they support legislative action at the state level to hold the cities personally
Hostage.
liable
Hostage.
for any
Hostage.
deficit on the pension liabilities, which is essentially, as a practical matter, means you cannot withdraw. You think this is bad? You think the 5 million's bad? That's a drop in the bucket compared to what the fire authority's done.
They're just afraid, they're afraid that the whole thing will implode and they'll be facing another bankruptcy situation.
That's why
That
I
they're
asked.
just barely crawling out of.
The whole thing,
No doubt.
Well, our unfunded liability includes a lot of other factors rather than just pension. It has workers' compensation as well as pension, and there's a couple of other things in there. But
Big one's
our
pension.
unfunded liability is about $500 million right now in total.
That we can see right now.
Yeah, I think, what was it, 566 was the last number I think I heard a year ago.
564 or 567.
And that's based on a cap rate of earnings of 7.25%.
Which is unrealistic.
Which is unrealistic. Stanford University School of Business says 5. You know, the underwriter said 5, and I asked for that number, and I think the number I got was closer to $1 billion deficit after that.
That's if you change that number.
If you change the cap rate to a realistic rate, a more.
Again, that's all of our unfunded liability. That's not just pensions.
Oh, sure, that's, we gotta include everything, because we want it to be solvent. That's the whole point. But it isn't.
Not if you give away the farm retroactively, all this retroactive stuff. It's kind of interesting. This is kind of, the fire authority money is kind of like out of sight, out of mind. We never see it, so we don't think about it. But if you really look at what we actually pay as a city towards safety, it's probably closer to 66%, not the 32% that's just the sheriff's department chunk of it. So it's a lot of money. It's a primary function of government, but is it primary to the point where like everything else doesn't matter? I don't know. It's tough stuff.
So, I guess I don't know what we really. It might be good to, I would like to agendize that next meeting for discussion, because we may want to consider action with other cities, lobby effort, something, because this is ridiculous. This would put us under.
Yep.
That single thing would literally put the city under.
Well, the question is it just if you pull out, or is it ongoing, as you mentioned earlier?
Or
Well, I think we should lodge a letter of complaint to the Board of Supervisors.
I
mean, this-
agree, let's do that.
Yep,
I agree with that too.
And I'll be glad to go down and deliver it personally.
Yep. Can we do that without?
That's a great idea.
You can direct staff to take action.
Yes.
So
Oh, we
that-
can?
Yeah, under the Brown Act,
The
you're
mayor.
entitled to direct staff.
Okay.
You just can't take formal action collectively.
Well, I'll move to do that formally to.
We can direct
Di-
staff
direct
to write
staff
a
to
letter
do it.
to the Board of Supervisors lodging our displeasure with their decision to support legislation that holds us hostage.
Yeah. Why don't you take a roll call just out of curiosity, Jared? I want to just
We
put
don't
it on
need,
the record.
we don't need a roll
I
call.
just want to watch the unanimous thing on the record.
Then we would be taking action, so we can't take a roll
That was
call.
my concern. That's why I asked. That way-
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
even if we direct
but
staff.
you have directed staff to.
Okay.
Can I make a comment? I'm sorry. I just want to make a correction. Mr. Hillebrand was correct. They did continue it. They did continue the item to a further.
So action hasn't been
But they
taken
did,
yet.
it has not been taken yet.
To a date
but-
specific, what date?
I just pulled up the email as well. It says, we, meaning OCFA, under the board advisory, will reach out to the county CEO staff regarding their plans to take this item up in the near future. But I gotta imagine it's on the forefront of every contract city's agenda. So we'll
Let's
closely
get our
monitor
letter in
this
there
one.
and they can read it before they
they
check
had
it
some-
out on calendar.
Here, this isn't directed at us. This is
They had
clearly
some
directed.
suggested change
This
language.
is Irvine. This is all about Irvine. When the squeaky wheel has a basketball, they pay attention. When we were trying to, say our thing and we had our little ping pong ball, they could have cared less. Take your ping pong ball and go home. But Irvine, that's a whole different ball of wax.
Yep.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
all right, so we'll do a letter from staff, a strong letter objecting. Okay, well, I guess we're back to council member items. Does anybody have anything?
Sure.
Okay.
First of all, Michelle, you're going to we're gonna get this CalPERS things going on next month, is that correct? Great. I wanted to also make note that I think we all got these things for the fireworks from the city of Orange, so if you could, Jared, I think a letter of thanks from all of us would be good for sending us the wristbands for the 3rd of July celebration. Yeah, that'd be nice to do. Also, I was fortunate, and I ran into, of course, Deb over at the Friends of Villa Park Library, the 5 and 10K run walk. I didn't run because I drove my car, but there were starter. I don't run because I do have a car, but anyway, I got to start the race, which is very nice. They were looking for somebody, and I was standing there, so that's how that worked out. But I think it was a great event. I'd actually never been to it before, and I thought it was very, very nice because for some reason, I've always been out of town that weekend. Since I'm and I think they made some good money to help support the library. Of course, I'm our rep to the library. Also, vector control. Every month, there's some disastrous vector that comes into play in California, especially Orange County. A lot of it actually revolves around specific communities, depending on where they come from, in pockets where they're bringing in things in their luggage and items from other countries. And it's not a big deal, but it's just a few things that always seem horrible when you think about it. But I'm not going to belabor the point. It's basically some kind of mosquito or some small bugs that there's actually mosquitoes out there, to let you know, that can lay their eggs. The eggs can dry out and they can rehydrate and be viable. I mean, this is like amazing. I mean, this is some pretty weird stuff. But yeah, it could be on your fingernail. And then the other thing is the CDC had. Pardon me, Michelle. You didn't want to know that, did you? So, anyway, vector control is always very interesting to listen to the other folks that are there. Actually, the CDC had no meeting this past month, but there will be one next month to be scheduled. And of course, we had the foundation report tonight, and from Kelly Jordan, it was very nice. That's all I have.
Anyone else that does or doesn't have a matter?
I would like to share some things quickly. You know I'm gonna. I know. On June 6th, I was with a.
8:30.
I can, if you'll be quiet, I can do this. Well, no, I won't do it quickly. I'm going to go real slow just to make you angry.
I promise I won't say a word.
I went with a delegation to meet with Congressman Ed Royce about the Marine Andrew Tamarisi, who's being held in the Mexican prison. And we were joined by 2 Marines who actually served with him. It was a sizable delegation. And we were able to get a report from the staff. It matters to me. Today is my son's 23rd birthday. He's a Marine in Afghanistan right now. So as a Marine mom, I couldn't help but let's go do something. We're going to do something about this. And we've been very actively, pressuring our elected officials higher up the food chain to get off dead center and do what you need to do. But Congressman Royce was able to be and was instrumental because of his position as chair of the House Foreign Relations Committee to visit with the Marine, to get him moved to a better prison facility, one that was less violent, if you will, into a private cell. And he was able to, and this is what really mattered to me, speak to his mother 5 or 6 times a day, which I'm sure was good for him. I know it was good for her. So I just want to let you know about that. And, if you've got it in your mind to write to somebody about that, I would appreciate that you do it. This is the week of action for that. I have some cell phone numbers that you can call and some numbers to call. We need to apply pressure this week, and we need to get him out. On June 10th, I went to the City of Orange's council meeting as a result of being asked to attend by people who are interested in what's happening with the Rio Santiago project. It was you think our meeting was long? This was long, and this was round 2 for them. But you all probably are aware of the fact that on a 3-2 vote, the city council denied the appeal of the developer. The Planning Commission had unanimously, I believe, recommended that they not approve the project. And of course, Pat Buttress chairs that Planning Commission. I delivered a message on behalf of the city council. I did not diverge at all from what we had discussed as being concerns and was written, but I also had an opportunity on a personal note to commend Pat Buttress, because so many people had discussed what an outstanding job you had done during this planning commission hearings, and how difficult it was, how heightened the tension was in the room, and how much technical material there was to get through, and what an outstanding job you did. So I was able to let the city of Orange know that. I did make note of the fact that they only have $18.6 million in their emergency fund on a $193 million annual budget. And I thought this was really interesting. They spend $70,000 a year on ammo. I thought that was a big number, $70,000 a year on ammo. I attended there was a special meeting of the Orange County Board of Education. I think Deanna Fasanelli was talking about this before the meeting. It came out of nowhere. They were supposed to have a meeting on Thursday, and all of a sudden it was changed to a special meeting on that Monday. And false information was really put out into the community of those who are supporting the bond measure, that this in some way was going to be diverting their attention away from voting to put the bond measure on the ballot. That entire meeting, once their members of the board came out of closed session, which closed session went over by about 40 minutes, the whole meeting lasted about 25 minutes, but they made it perfectly clear that they're going to be supporting putting a bond on the ballot. That vote is going to be taken place on Monday, June 30th, at another special meeting. But you can write to the members of the Board of Education at board@orangeusd.org and let them know how you feel about having your property taxes increased, or them wasting any more of our education dollars by floating this bond measure. And finally, I want to brag, because I did run the Friends of the Library 5K and came in 2 minutes faster than last time at a time of 30 minutes and 28 seconds. Not bad for an old broad. Anyway, there were about...
You were not even breathing hard.
I wasn't, but I'll tell you, I was feeling really good about that until I saw the top 16-year-old ran it in 16 minutes. 500 people out there, huge, terrific energy, and I think it was probably the best they've done in a long time with that. So, I'm done.
Okay. Well, I did not run. I did not go there. I'd like to just follow up. Yes, they are going to take a vote on Monday. I would encourage the residents to email, call, write, express their opinion. In my particular case, what I want you to do is look at your property tax bill, see what your property is assessed at, times it by $39, and you're going to see that bill now for the next 20 years, 15 to 25 years. In the case of myself, that's about $400 increase on my property tax bill. Goes up every year because your property taxes go up every year.
2% every year.
Okay, 2% every year, it's going to go up. And you also have obligations. The bond measure has been written. It's on the OUSD website. It clearly tells you what the dollars will be used for, and it's very ambiguous. So I encourage everyone to please read it. If they don't have access to it, give a call to City Hall. We'll be happy to print it out for you. We have access to it, but read it in detail. It's not going to produce the wonderful, beautiful pictures that have been promoted around the city and around the county. And I realize that we do have some issues with the schools, but I do believe that if they put their heads together, we might be able to come up with a better solution than taxing everybody an additional $100 to $600 a year for the next 20 years. And that will be a series of a few bonds.
Well, that's the first.
That's
just
the first
bond
bond.
one, and it's going to be at least two more, perhaps three more in addition. So I would agree with you on this.
I did put a call in to Kathy Moffett, which is our representative for the city of Villa Park, and she did call me back while we were here in the council meeting. So I haven't spoken to her, but she did call me back. So
Deanna, I know you read that. Now, from the excerpts that I was aware of, what we discussed, at these meetings that they had at the high school and other places, they talked about having actually a maintenance budget. And that was the big question I had when I went to these meetings. What is the reserve for?
According to the way it's written, is that None of the funds from the bond will go to maintenance. What will happen, there'll be 1% from the general fund that will be put into a maintenance fund for the future. So this is gonna happen again.
1% is
Doesn't
not
fix
even
anything.
close to a reality. It should be somewhere around between 5 and 8%. And that's to maintain what they currently have and what they're going to build. And as just like you guys with the fire and the sheriffs, you have to maintain the buildings and the infrastructure you have. You know you can't operate without it, and yet that's what these folks are proposing to do. It's just not that we don't, I think I agree that something needs to be done, but I mean, if it was just a bond issue to do nothing but have a reserve that they could use to repair everything, would be a much far better way of spending money, I think. Anyway,
Yes.
thank you.
I did attend the movie night over at Serrano. It was well attended. Got to see Frozen, and in fact, it was a pleasure to see Mr. Ulmer, who is on the board of directors with his wife, and we had Antoinette Balta, who also went. Brad, you came also. So we did have several members from the foundation that were there. That hasn't happened in the past, and it was a pleasure to actually see them to do that. Other than that, that's all I have.
Great. On the 28th of May, there was an Orange County Sanitation District meeting. The focus was on odor control and different chemicals they use, like hypochlorate and emulsion polymers and catenic polymers. Some of the residents around the two facilities have been complaining. The price of those chemicals have been going up about 5%. Also, we renewed their insurances for earthquake, general liability, comp, and boy, those prices are going up as well. So that's kind of what's been going on down there. Thank you.
Well, I kind of took my time on the comments about the fire authority. So I really don't have a lot other than to, as a point of interest, to say that of all the fire staff that I've met, they all seem to be a committed, community-oriented, great group of people. And when they get into union mode and put their uniforms on and get together, they don't seem to have any concern for the community whatsoever. All they care about is how much money they can extract, and they have absolutely no interest in the community, is my perception. So that's my venting of some frustration, and I'm done.
Staff have any reports?
I have no report. Tyler's last day is Thursday.
Oh,
so
yeah,
if you
I got a
haven't
card
seen
for
him yet, stop by City Hall and wish him the best of luck.
In Wyoming. We gave him the night off because he had to prepare for his state move.
Did he shave?
Not yet.
He's gonna fit right in. I see him like wearing plaid, he's letting that beard grow out.
That's
Just getting ready for Wyoming.
He going?
Wyoming, right?
Oh, where, when?
Yeah.
Thursday's his last day.
This Thursday.
I'm kind of jealous.
Can buy him lunch or
Yeah, it's kind of cool, huh?
He's great, he's a great young man. He's
Exceeded my expectations.
mine too, mine too.
There'll be lots for sure.
Oh, yeah,
Well-
he'll be missed.
anything staff feels compelled to say? I can see Michelle's not gonna say anything, and after my own heart. Nope, that's it. Meeting adjourned. Almost made it by 8:30.
That was close.
I will take
Bob,
Very
I'm trying, I was trying to get 8, then I